Okay, let's get to your last question of the week here.
There's just a bunch of other guys that we didn't necessarily talk about during the waiver wire show who are kind of deeper pieces, but guys who I think could potentially get into fantasy lineups this week and be starters and be potentially decent starters as well. So who are some of the under the radar fantasy starters for week 11? And the first guy on my list here is a guy who's going to be playing against the Bills this week. That's Sean Tucker at running back. Amari DeMercado, who we've seen do some things the last couple of weeks. He gets to play the 49ers. That Cardinals backfield still waiting on Trey Benson. He hasn't come back yet. Sticking with the Cardinals, Michael Wilson getting an opportunity to potentially be their number one receiver with Marvin Harrison Jr. having an appendectomy this week. Trey Tucker, who had a quiet game last week, even though they traded away Jacoby Myers. And yet this week, what a matchup against the Cowboys. So you look to him as a potential option. And then Pat Freiermuth going against the Bengals again. And that was the game where he popped up for his best contest of the year, his best stat line. Can he do it again against that defense that just hemorrhages fantasy points to everybody? I think he potentially can. He's in the streamer mix here. And for Tucker to start off at the top, Bucky Irving back at practice this week. So we're going to have to watch to see what is going on with Bucky, but he's just practicing in a limited fashion. I don't think that means he's going to come back this week. He's missed a bunch of time. I don't think they're going to rush him back. So great to see him back at practice, but seems to me like we might not see him play this week. This might be just getting him ready to come back in the coming weeks. And in his absence, Rachaad White has been the lead back, of course, continues to be the lead back, but he's seen his numbers dip in recent weeks. And we've seen the team give Sean Tucker some extra work. In their last two games, they were sandwiched around that week 9 bye. Tucker turned 12 carries into 42 yards and a touchdown against the Saints, and then 10 touches into 51 yards against the Patriots. The Patriots are a tough matchup on the ground. So the fact that he was able to have some success against them, that's nice to see. Those are flex-worthy stats, right? And now he gets his easiest matchup yet against the Bills, who are giving up the 6th most fantasy points to running back. So he might just be a 1-week play. If Bucky Irving comes back next week, then Sean Tucker probably goes to the waiver wire at that point. If Bucky returns this week, then forget about everything I'm saying right now, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Tucker's going to be a sneaky flex option for you in this one against a pretty nice matchup in the Bills. Amari DeMercado, so we all know, he had that one game where he had the big play and he fumbled on the goal line and everybody just dunked on him. But if you look at the last couple of weeks, he started to put up some decent numbers, right? 78 yards on 15 touches in week 9, 104 yards on 7 touches last week. He can make some explosive plays. Again, we don't know an update on Trey Benson other than they just keep saying he's taking it day by day. They haven't opened up his practice window yet, so he's not coming back this week. I don't know when he's going to return. So DeMercado is somebody that could have some legs here, not only as a potential RB3 with some upside this week, especially if he can add a touchdown to this kind of stat line, but a guy that might have another week or two in him if Trey Benson continues to remain out. And we just haven't got an update to make me think that Trey Benson is coming back anytime soon here. So keep that one in mind. Michael Wilson, very, very interesting, right? And you look at everything that's happened that's just kind of set him up. You look at Jacoby Brissett getting under center, and all of a sudden his numbers have started to pop up a little bit. And then just a ton of injuries. The Harrison Jr. one that I mentioned, also Zay Jones going on season-ending IR, Simi Fehoko going on IR. It's really opened this up to be the receiver room for Michael Wilson. And, he hadn't topped 20 yards in a single outing through the first 5 games. And then Brissett gets under center. And it hasn't been huge numbers, but 4 for 44, 3 for 40, 3 for 61, 4 for 34. And that was while playing a complimentary role behind McBride, who, again, he's another one of those tight ends where he is the de facto number 1 receiver in the offense, but then also Harrison was out there. So we're taking Harrison away. I think we're going to see Wilson get some more opportunity here. It's rare when you can go out and get, even though he's not technically the number 1 receiver because McBride's there, it's rare to go out and get a number 1 receiver off the waiver wire. So you grab him. I think he's a wide receiver 3 flex option this week. And again, this is another one that could bump past a week because we don't know how long it's going to take Harrison to come back. It might be a couple weeks for him to recover. Trey Tucker, it's all about the matchup, right? He's going against the Cowboys. This game has a very lofty total, 49.5 projected points. Cowboys are favored by 3.5, but the Raiders still have the 12th highest implied total on the week here. So someone is scoring points in this offense. Yes, it'll probably be Brock Bowers. Yes, it'll probably be Ashton Genty. I think Trey Tucker could have one of those games like he had earlier in the season where he was usable for fantasy. So he's a wide receiver 3 with some upside. And then Pat Freiermuth, this one is kind of more of that dart throw streamer option. But you look back in that first game against the Bengals, 5 receptions, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Everybody remembers because it was on a Thursday night. We all got to see it happen in prime time. Hasn't had a ton of big games, but he found the end zone in another game recently as well. And you're going to have DJ Turner, their excellent corner. He goes up against number 1 receivers. So I think he's going to match against DK Metcalf. And that's what forces them now to throw to the tight ends, to throw to the backs. And I think that's really going to make Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith potentially playable this week as streaming options.
I'll tell you what, buddy, I'm throwing that dart. I've got at least one team. I think actually it's that office team that we keep talking about here that I've got Juwan Johnson. Keeps coming back. I think I picked up Freiermuth to stream because I don't have Juwan Johnson this week. So, listen, the teams that have fried the Bengals the most, they get their tight ends involved. It's how it goes. So, I think obviously the Steelers are a great example, but we saw what Colson Loveland did to this Bengals defense recently. So, yeah, I definitely think that Freiermuth, it's going to be tough because he just isn't on the field consistently, but he is definitely worth a dart throw in this matchup. And Michael Wilson, I'm really intrigued by what Michael Wilson's going to do in this game because I don't think he's bad, man. I think he actually is. I'm not saying he's some sleeping superstar or anything, but he's a useful player. I think that fits in the archetype of receiver that should work in this offense, works over the middle of the field, kind of like a poor man's Michael Pittman type of player has been my comp for him since I charted him for reception perception as a rookie. And in this offense with Jacoby Brissett, I think you can get to those throws better. And this team in San Francisco, the opponent this week, just does not have a pass rush. And Jacoby Brissett, when he's blitzed, is good. Like he's actually been really good against the blitz. So I expect him to get the ball out this week, and McBride's going to get his. He's going to get peppered like crazy. But if you're desperate, Michael Wilson's a quality fantasy starter, I think.
Well, and we have a little bit of breaking news here, Harmon. It looks like they've announced Brock Purdy will return to the starting lineup on Sunday against the Cardinals in that game. Shanahan just said that. So we're going to get Brock Purdy back this week, like I said, which I think could help the offense as long as he's 100% healthy and we don't have another scenario where he's pushing to come back and he ends up aggravating the injury and then misses more time. If we get Brock Purdy at 100%, he is still a better quarterback than Mac Jones. For as good as Mac Jones has played in relief, Brock Purdy is the man in this offense. Brock Purdy, fantasy-wise, a guy who's been a top 12 fantasy quarterback on a per-game basis each of the last 2 years. And now he's coming back to an offense that has George Kittle again, that has potentially Ricky Pearsall coming back this week or coming back soon. And I think I've talked about this before, but I think people forget how good this 49ers attack can be when these guys are all healthy. And this is a matchup where the Cardinals defense, they've played pretty well this season. But I think this is a matchup where they could totally crush, especially with Purdy back. So this is really exciting from the standpoint of the 49ers being a potential contender, but also from a fantasy perspective and trying to get the most out of this offense.
Yeah, look, Mac Jones has been good with this offense, and I think he's potentially earned himself an opportunity if the Niners can cash him in as a trade candidate because he did sign a 2-year deal. But Purdy does bring a little bit more from the anticipation throws deep and over the middle of the field. And obviously, as a scrambler, as an improviser, he is significant. Now, we'll see. Coming off that toe injury, he only got one aggressive practice in, whatever an aggressive practice means, but that's what he got in this week, according to Kyle Shanahan. And I think we'll see what he's like as a mover off that injury, but he brings a lot more pop to this offense. So how about that? We're talking about a Cardinals receiver. That news breaks right as we're talking about this game. Sometimes things just work out for the old Yahoo Fantasy Forecast. So I'm really excited to see Pearsall and Purdy back together if we do indeed get Ricky Pearsall, because, I just think Purdy brings a little bit more upside to this offense and could be an interesting fantasy matchup with two bad defenses and two offenses that are certainly able to put some production up. So, if you're desperate, Michael Wilson on the waiver wire, potentially a pretty nice option for you.